Dear Diary, I recently saw the film Look Back, which was based on a manga of the same name by one of my favorite authors, Tatsuki Fujimoto. The film, like the manga, follows a girl named Fujino who, as a kid, is highly respected for her 4-panel manga that gets published in the school newspaper. One day, another girl in her grade who doesn't attend school physically and is seen as a shut-in, Kyomoto, submits a 4-panel manga as well. Fujino's manga are funny and crudely drawn, while Kyomoto's are these beautiful backgrounds that look painstakingly made. Fujino, lacking the praise she's usually received, decides to get better at creating. She buys books, she practices day in and day out, drawing the ire and concern of her friends and family. But one day she quits. Once elementary school graduation comes, a teacher asks Fujino to deliver Kyomoto's certificate to her, and upon her visit, Fujino learns that Kyomoto had actually been her biggest fan. From there, Fujino seems to have this newfound inspiration to draw and improve. The film itself is beautiful, as is the manga, but towards the end, there's a piece of dialogue that made something about my past click with an idea in my head. In the story's final words, we hear Fujino say,
You know, if I'm being super honest, I don't even like drawing manga. It's not fun or glamorous or anything. It's a pain in the butt. Even if you work all day long, there's still so much left to do. I'd be way happier reading manga. I shouldn't draw it.
Then, why do you draw, Fujino?
And that's it. We are left to meditate on this singular question with no clear answer. Many people have stated that this story has inspired them to pick drawing back up. I just need to get back to my studio to get my paintbrush, my pencils, my typewriter, etc. And I don't think passion is bad by any means. I think it is something that any artist can use as fuel for their entire career. But when watching Fujino's journey unfold, I saw passion spilling into obligation. It was for her classmates, it was for her editors, and it was for Kyomoto. And this drive for Kyomoto persists to the film's final frame. But it was for Fujino too. So I wonder, does passion always intertwine with obligation? I mentioned earlier that something from my past clicked while watching the film. Something that, despite my reading the manga, I never fully realized until halfway through my viewing. When I was a small child, I was enamored with dancing. I was also painfully shy and felt like I couldn't showcase it. So I didn't bother even considering I could be like the ballerinas or the salsa dancers I saw on TV. Before I knew it, at 11 years old, I was creating choreography after choreography. Even though I knew it was too late to consider ballet, I still found ways to experiment with moving my body. It was exhilarating. I would dance throughout the rest of my childhood. When nobody was around the house, the entire living room was my studio. If someone was home, I danced in the bathroom. But I always wanted my body to do more. When I went away to college, I found out that there was an entire dance program, which I decided to do passively. I was nowhere near professional, but I could practice and be with other people who liked to learn and experiment. It wasn't something I was going to declare as a major or a minor. That went to communication and sociology. But dance was my safe haven. If I was excited, I had a studio I could let that excitement out in. If I was frustrated or in emotional pain, I had a studio I could go to. I aspired not only for grace, but for beauty, power, and freedom when I moved. I wanted full agency over myself and found that to be the most liberating way to achieve it, and the most fun. And unfortunately, it caught the eye of the one person who I wasn't prepared to let change the trajectory of my life. As my college career was wrapping up, I had no idea what I wanted to do. In terms of practicality, I enjoyed working with film and had the opportunity to become a professional critic. But around the same time, the head of the university's dance department approached me, saying that she knew how much I put into the work I'd submitted in her class alone. That isn't to say anything of the attempts of metamorphosis I made in the classes her faculty taught. She offered me a deal. If I stayed one more semester and took one more dance class and declared it as a minor, I would have a spot in her department as a professor. To say that was a shock would be a gross understatement. But I wasn't happy and turned her down, opting to go with film criticism. Watching look back made me realize I was young and didn't think of anything other than the idea of my passion dissipating if I was obliged to teach others, that someone would think of me as any example and ask me to find merit in what they did. I wouldn't just be dancing for myself anymore. And in all honesty, I think I was terrified. To revisit my question from earlier, after looking at where my life has gone, I believe the answer is that passion and obligation are intertwined. We all have a reason that we do what we do, but there will always be someone impacted by whatever our passion is. We see it every day and experience it without knowing. Fujino's work gave her many things. It took things away from her, and it ultimately gave joy to many people. Even when it didn't feel worth it, she still put her best foot forward, drawing silently as the credits rolled, with the hanging question of why she draws never receiving a verbal answer. But all of her serializations, the ones the audience sees throughout the film that she worked with Kyomoto, and the ones she worked on as an adult, were the answers hidden in plain sight. Passion does tie to obligation. The dancer in me knows that now, and the artist in me who wants to give his best knows that that isn't a bad thing. I'm not afraid to fulfill that obligation and pursue my passion anymore, to fulfill that obligation to myself, because I know that at the end of the day, it'll all come back to me. Until next time, Cameron.